I will support every misery you've got. I will support every blue. I will support every sagging thing. I will support you. I will defend every dream you have. I will defend every truth. I will defend every lie if I have to. I will defend you.
Hello and welcome to Moralton University episode 10. Can you believe we've done 10 of these? Since we recently hit 10,000 subscribers, we asked you to pick the topic for our next video. So here it is, emotionally honest queer representation in moral oral. All of us here at Moralton University identify as queer in some way, so this is a subject near and dear to our hearts. We had a lot of fun writing this script, and we hope you have just as much fun watching the video.
Before we get into our essay on queer representation in moral oral, we would like to talk about a film from the year 1970, The Boys in the Band.
Days a glimpse of stocking was looked on as something shocking. Now heaven knows anything goes.
The Boys in the Band is set in late 60s New York and centers on Michael, a self-deprecating gay alcoholic and struggling screenwriter, as he plans, throws, and ruins a birthday party for his friend Harold. This film was notable during its time for presenting to mainstream audiences an alternative look into gay culture. Despite being hidden away in the privacy of a lavish New York apartment, the warmth and camaraderie among the men in the movie has a heartwarming quality to it, as well as the narrative choice to dwell deeply on the heartbreak of the gay experience and the joys and pains of living in the closet or choosing to live otherwise.
Beware the hostile fag. When he's sober, he's dangerous. When he drinks, he's lethal.
Would you just shut up your goddamn minty mouth and get back in the goddamn kitchen?
Everyone get dressed. We're going Christmas caroling.
I bet you move your lips when you read.
Oh, you better go too, Revs. Let the men handle this.
Now, this isn't so new, but it might be new to you. Have you heard the term closet queen?
And the only true justice was to let those dominant jackals feed on you, survive off you.
Let me tell you something, Orel.
I am not drunk! You cannot tell that I'm drunk.
You're a homosexual and you don't want to be. But there's nothing you can do to change it. Not all your prayers to your God. Not all the analysis you can buy and all the years you've got left to live.
So at the time that The Boys in the Band came out, why were there some gay people who hated it? Post-Stonewall, the gay zeitgeist had shifted to a place of rejecting internalized homophobia and radical self-acceptance, so the self-flagellating attitudes prevalent in The Boys in the Band, regardless of its subversive and positive portrayal of gay culture, was already considered passé and offensive to the gay community. Despite the fact that this film was considered old hat immediately after its release, today's audiences can still understand and appreciate its message in a way that wasn't common at the time. Nonetheless, the standards by which we judge queer representation today are often similar. Often queer audiences desire representation to shy away from emotional honesty and towards a utopian ideal that can present queer characters who don't deal with what's considered stereotypical problems that they are expected to face. From typical life situations such as the pains of coming out, internalized and social forms of homophobia or transphobia, and violence, to more extreme character-specific depictions that may deal with predatory, violent, or criminal behaviors or other ethically fraught topics. Moral oral engages with queer themes of all colors, leaving room for depictions that may not necessarily be palatable to either gay or straight audiences, but which still resonate with a broader human experience and fallibility.
In this video, we will go over some of the most prominent queer characters, as well as characters who are heavily queer-coded. First, we'll talk about one of the show's most beloved characters, Stephanie. The predatory lesbian is a common trope in media, depicting women who are attracted to women. The trope depicts the lesbian character relentlessly pursuing the heterosexual object of her desire, often in ways that are malicious and inappropriate. The pervasiveness of the predatory lesbian trope and its negative impact on actual lesbians makes characters like Stephanie a breath of fresh air. In the third season, Stephanie is confirmed to be a lesbian via flashbacks to her high school crush on Kim. While Stephanie does try to act on her feelings and initiate physical intimacy, Kim is actually the one behaving in a predatory manner. Kim takes advantage of Stephanie's feelings to use her as a prop in a fetishized girl on girls with the intention of upsetting Reverend Putty and arousing her boyfriend Carl. Stephanie presents herself as Butch and in many ways gender non-conforming. She has a short haircut with buzzed sides and wears a plain black t-shirt and shorts. She has many piercings, but none of them are traditionally feminine. Her piercings have a more gender-neutral, punk-inspired appearance. Her tattoos add to a more alternative look. The only time she wears a dress is to church or to events that she attends with her dad. She appears uncomfortable in the dress and does not wear it for prolonged periods of time. Orel does not judge her appearance or question why she does not present herself in a more feminine way. Instead of being a rough, mean, uncaring person as one might assume from her appearance, Stephanie is one of the kindest and gentlest characters in the show. In the Blessed Union, Orel quickly becomes attached to Stephanie because of her warm nature and willingness to talk to him like an equal. He tells her that this makes her different from his mom, teacher, and the rest of the women in town, and tries to find ways to spend more time with her. She exhibits genuine care for Orel in ways that others do not because they are too blinded by their own interests. For instance, when the rest of the town is pressuring Orel to win the praying bee, Stephanie notices that he looks unwell and offers him guidance on how to relax. It is because of her attentiveness that Orel is able to both win and maintain his mental and physical well-being. Orel doesn't fully formulate his thoughts on queerness or what his beliefs around it are within the series proper, but one scrapped episode would have him happy for Miss Sculptham's decision to marry a woman, and expressing dismay when their union is denied. People often view lesbians as lacking the feelings that normal heterosexual women have, such as maternal instincts. This is categorically untrue. Lesbians can possess maternal instincts or want to become a mother, and straight women can lack maternal instincts or have no interest in motherhood. Stephanie repeatedly shows maternal instincts towards Orel and is very fond of him, but clearly doesn't want to be a mother herself.
Nice. You're nice. You're nice. You're nice.
Homosexuality is often considered to be inseparable from sex. It is seen as an illness that victimizes boys and corrupts men, something you can catch. The relationships that homosexuals share with each other can't possibly be love, only lust. Therefore, exposing children to a gay lifestyle in any way is akin to pedophilic grooming and is an inherently violent act. On the other hand, there is the opposite extreme that attempts to place gay men in a heteronormative box. One man must be submissive and effeminate, and the other dominant and masculine. Their attempts at assimilation are not rewarded, though, as they are still not granted the marital privileges of a straight couple. Sex is off the table in these portrayals, and affection is played as a joke. In Moral Orel, we're shown only one explicitly gay couple, but the episode Loyalty features a pair of one-off characters that are heavily implied to be budding queer people. The nice boys each have a single line, which they repeat to one another ad infinitum before a gentle cheek kiss. The boys are presented as almost cherubic in nature, pushing the trope of sanitized homosexuality so far that it becomes parody. They're stripped of any tongue-in-cheek references to a wild gay nightlife that was abandoned for heterosexually styled married life, which is prevalent in media. A lack of explicit confirmation isn't used here to please any pearl-clutching onlookers, but to present queerness in its most pure form, love between two people who see and appreciate one another. The nice boys of the Blacklist Forest are most notably just that, little boys, not men. Protect the children is the common battle cry of those who feel gay men set out to prey upon the youth, ignorant of the fact that queer people were once children like the rest of us and grow into their identity in developmentally appropriate ways. As Orel spies on them in his usual oblivious fashion, he remarks that nothing weird is going on, and he is correct. The nice boys are fundamentally no different from Christina and himself. They also subvert the notion of passive homosexuals who are too weak-willed to fight back, or who are cleansed by the supposedly justified violence unleashed upon them. After Joe and Orel brutally hate-crime the boys, the brown-haired boy hits Joe over the head with a bat, only to cradle the head of his injured friend and begin their ritual anew. Coincidentally, the boys of the Blacklist Forest share a passing resemblance to a decidedly more complicated, adult gay couple.
Going into the 1980s, queer representation in film and television took a turn for the dismal, when it became not only the norm, but increasingly acceptable to depict queer people on film as villains deserving of bashing, playing up stereotypes in an unflattering fashion and often subjecting gay or trans characters to cruel and brutal on-screen deaths, which the narrative frames as deserved, if not for the crime of queerness, the crime of being the villain, but the two thus become associated in the viewer's head. This may have been in backlash to social and legal advancements that gay people were achieving in the 1970s, along with increased visibility on the political stage. Danielle plays the villain role straight in the first season, but beginning in the second season becomes a sympathetic character. His sexuality is presented as predatory, pathological, and perverse. This is reinforced through Putty's sermon in Satan, where he reiterates the homophobic notion that being gay is caused by Satan's temptation and boils it down to being entirely about sex. Clay's descent into antagonism is juxtaposed against his queer nature. His monstrousness in the story is revealed in a tirade against women and sexual relations with them. Him admitting his desires is framed as his defeat, and his remaining with Roberta could be read as a slow death. Regardless of their perceived villainousness in Orel's story, Clay and Danielle's story is described by the crew as a Romeo and Juliet story. There is a lot of tragedy and humanity wrapped up in their portrayal. It invites the question of who they could have been if they hadn't been brought up in a social atmosphere that pushes them to repress their desires or see themselves as monstrous or villainous.
On the surface, Clay and Danielle fit common gay tropes that are seen both in media and reality: the closeted Republican politician and the creepy gym coach, respectively. However, these tropes are subverted as the show goes on and the depth of their characters is revealed. These archetypes exist in reality and find their root in homophobic social circles. There are instances of Republican politicians, religious leaders, conversion therapists, and law enforcement being forcibly outed as gay or queer. In some cases, the revelation of their hypocrisy resulted in a complete reevaluation of their political beliefs and values, while others doubled down on their stance and even denied the allegations, though there may have been ample evidence to the contrary. On the other hand, among the ranks of gym coaches, teachers, youth pastors, Boy Scout troop leaders, and others who work directly with children, there will undoubtedly be instances of predators trying to gain access to vulnerable victims. It is important to the story that Danielle is not one of these people, but he does exhibit some predatory behaviors in his conquest of Clay.
In the scrapped episode entitled Raped, Miss Sculptham is shown to be attracted to both a man, who is a hardened serial rapist, and a woman, who is a prison guard disguising herself as a man. In the episode, Agnes Sculptham, Orel's teacher, discovers that she is still pregnant despite her efforts to self-induce an abortion, and chooses to look for a husband at the Freedom County prison under the guise of a field trip. We discuss Miss Sculptham's history with her sexual assault in our rape culture video, but to put it plainly, she displaces her guilt about her sexual desires into fantasies of non-consent. The idea being that as a rape victim, she will not be blamed for having a sexual experience as long as she didn't consent to it. For this reason, she romantically pursues a man she knows to be a rapist when she goes to the jail, and they plan to wed. Later in the episode, after she gets cold feet, a female police officer who passes as a male officer pursues Miss Sculptham, and they attempt to marry. Their efforts are futile, however, since getting a marriage license for a same-sex wedding is not legal in Moralton. The gist of the episode is that it's hypocritical to make legal allowances for certain unions and not for others. Miss Secondopinionson. Miss Secondopinionson, while not explicitly stated to be a trans woman, contextually is coded as one. With the level of queer literacy presented in the rest of the show, it's hard to read her otherwise. She is presented as masking her voice to everyone except her immediate family. This isn't played as a drag role the way the Censordoll is. Rather, Joe lampshades that she has a ugly voice and that he believes that this is the reason that she is unmarried. She also states that she is barren, suggesting she does not have the reproductive organs needed to carry children of her own.
Reverend Putty, a man who, contrary to his position, is normally concerned only with his own problems, seems to be incredibly observant when it comes to the relationships of queer people in Moralton. Most notably, his daughter Stephanie, Moralton's resident butch lesbian. When he first meets her as an adult, he flirts with her voraciously, even down to the last second that he can deny his paternity. One might assume that he has the worst gaydar on the planet, but it is more likely that his desperation is clouding what he knows to be true. And he's known this to be true for much longer than he recalls. In Close Face, we're shown through flashback that Rod was there when Kim took advantage of Stephanie. To that day, she insists that Kim was her date, as though there was a mutual attraction that one half of the pair was never fully willing to act on. Despite all the years that have passed since, and his track record of homophobia so far, what stuck out to the Reverend is that Kim didn't care about his daughter at all. It is possible that his softer reaction at the time had something to do with the girl's ages, and later the fact that Stephanie is related to him. Having a more quote-unquote favorable approach to sapphic relationships is also incredibly common for men, especially ones driven by lust, though this doesn't appear to be the case. Reverend Putty does react to the girls kissing with shock and moral offense, but this is tame compared to his feelings about male homosexuals. Danielle's presence at church one Sunday seems to immediately strike Reverend Putty as a threat to his community and their immortal souls. He overhauls the entire sermon he had planned to talk about the evils of homosexuality, only to go on a rant that makes it seem as though attraction to men is mostly a threat to his own immortal soul.
Homosexuality. Not only is it the biggest sin out there, it's just plain unfair. Men with men? Are you kidding me? Try not to lose your virginity under those circumstances. I mean, you cut out women and you cut out teasing and shelling out cash for expensive dinners and nagging. In fact, gay men would have it made in the shade if it weren't for one thing.
Or perhaps he is struck by a feeling of envy, as Danielle never explicitly verbalizes his sexuality, but unapologetically flaunts himself about the town, never changing who he is or how he chooses to express himself. In honor, Rod uses the concept of women liking cheating jerks to advise Orel on his issues with honoring his father. Yet, when he gives Orel an example of a person to seek relevant guidance from, he immediately names Coach Stopframe.
Go talk to someone who likes your dad that way. Much. Coach Stopframe.
Oh. Okay.
Reverend Putty is not the shining example of a pastor, but he does care about Orel. It is unlikely he would send him into the arms of a man he felt was genuinely dangerous. It is possible that, when confronted with feelings he is incapable of working through, such as internalized homophobia, he reacts with aggression. But when he is faced with these feelings in a context that's more comfortable for him, he too is freely able to express himself, even going so far as to admit to Stephanie that his own struggles with love are wholly applicable to her own.
Throughout the show, we see set pieces that reference complicated figures in queer history. The Joseph McCarthy Blacklist Forest references a U.S. senator best known for his crusade against the perceived threat of communism in the 1950s. McCarthy's Red Scare, which targeted supposed communists in the U.S. government, worked in tandem with the Lavender Scare. The Lavender Scare formed from the idea that queerness existed in opposition to good American values. Therefore, queer individuals needed to be purged from the federal government. Furthermore, queerness was thought to be a national security risk because homosexuality increased a person's risk of being blackmailed by communists. Beyond the many queer individuals who lost their jobs, accusations of homosexuality were sometimes used as a smear tactic against those targeted by McCarthy's investigation. Rhetoric associating communism and homosexuality was common at the time. McCarthy stated that, if you want to be against McCarthy, you've got to be either a communist or a cocksucker. Political and public belief also conflated the two. Judith Adkins writes, both were thought to be morally weak or psychologically disturbed. Both were seen as godless, both purportedly undermined the traditional family, both were assumed to recruit, and both were shadowy figures with a secret subculture. The Roy Cohn Memorial Blood Bank is named for the prosecutor who became notorious for his immorality and hypocrisy. Cohn first rose to prominence in the trial of suspected Soviet spies Ethel and Julian Rosenberg. He helped secure their conviction and execution through unlawful private conversations with the judge. This was the start of a career that would utilize blackmail, manipulation, and smear campaigns to achieve victory at any cost. Fittingly, Cohn went on to act as McCarthy's chief counsel during the Red and Lavender Scares despite being gay himself. In his later years, Cohn was best known as Donald Trump's lawyer. He taught Trump to attack, counterattack, and never apologize, which is a playbook Trump has followed in both business and politics. Cohn never came to terms with or acknowledged his sexuality, but it was an open secret to those who knew him. He died of AIDS in 1986, though he claimed to have liver cancer. Because of his impact on American politics, both past and present, and the harm he inflicted on his own community, Cohn has been depicted in a variety of media after his death. These include Tony Kushner's play Angels in America and its miniseries adaptation where he is portrayed by Al Pacino, Thomas Mallon's novel and miniseries adaptation Fellow Travelers, and the 2024 film The Apprentice, where he is portrayed by Jeremy Strong. Finally, though not as directly tied to queer history, the Thomas Bowdler Library references one of the most well-known literary expurgators in history. Thomas Bowdler and his sister Henrietta published a family-friendly version of Shakespeare's plays titled The Family Shakespeare. This effort to create a version of Shakespeare deemed suitable for women and children coined the term Bowdlerize, which describes the act of censoring media that has been deemed inappropriate. Queerness in American media has been the target of Bowdlerism for decades. Between 1934 and 1968, the Hays Code placed strict guidelines on what could be depicted in American motion pictures. Prior to 1934, queerness was depicted in an explicit, albeit typically derogatory, manner. Following the implementation of the Hays Code, queerness in film became subtextual in order to avoid censorship. Queerness has also been edited out of media targeted at a younger audience. When Sailor Moon was licensed to North America in the 90s, there were several changes that included the removal of queer dialogue and scenes. Perhaps the most well-known example is the erasure of Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune's romantic relationship. In the American version, they were cousins with a completely platonic relationship. Literature featuring queer voices or themes are among the most common targets of literary censorship. In 2023, the American Library Association reported 4,240 unique titles that face call for censorship. The ALA's Office for Intellectual Freedom documented 1,247 demands for censorship of library books and other materials. 47% of the demands for censorship were for books containing LGBTQ or BIPOC material. LGBTQ books do not even need to be explicit to garner demands for censorship. The children's book And Tango Makes Three, a story about two male penguins raising a baby penguin, has been a target for censorship since it was first published 20 years ago. It's fitting that Moralton's library, an institution that largely serves children and is run by a woman hell-bent on burning books, would be named after the man whose name is synonymous with censorship.
Dad, sit down, 'cause I'm in love with the guy. I'm not that gay, but I'm in love with the guy.
We talk a lot about how the fandom, amongst ourselves, we talk about how the fandom is it sanitizes some of the queer characters in there.
Definitely.
The one we talk about a lot is Danielle, and how him being nice to Orel in honor, and recognizing that Clay is kind of a crappy person, in the eyes of the fandom, that totally redeems him of all the shitty stuff he's done throughout the series, and the fact that he's still an awful person, just because he did one nice thing.
And it's so clear where it comes from because, you're in a community where your very being is demonized, through its entire existence. You have a conceited effort to see people within your community as kind of not objectively better per se, but you can empathize with them more, so you start to excuse some of their actions.
Yeah. It's a different, the standards are different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think Stephanie Stephanie doesn't do a lot wrong, honestly, but I think she gets a pass from the fandom as being too good for Moralton, too good for all these people, and she does a few questionable things. She gave Orel that piercing.
She can be a cool role model and everything, but she can also be maybe a little too impulsive with the decisions that she makes in Orel's favor. I know she's trying to do the best for him, but
she did technically kidnapped Christina.
You have to kind of squint to see all that though, because it's always, portrayed as a good thing that, she's doing it to be good to others because she cares about them. I do feel that if there is a character who kind of just mildly dips into that tokenism, the sort of the good gay representation who, no one can point fingers and say you're bad, that's Stephanie.
Yeah, no, I mean I agree. I'm not trying to say I don't think that she's objectively the most morally in line one, but
people definitely will get defensive about this, but when we bring up things like the piercing, nobody is saying oh she looked at it and she pierced it, she's so fucking weird. We're not going the absolute opposite direction. It's a mistake, and she describes why she makes the mistake. She straight up tells us, she thinks that if she was in Orel's position at her age, she would have wanted somebody to do that for her. She's acting from a place of trauma, which every character does. But it's interesting because the way a lot of people excuse her actions from coming from a good place, the same, like, Clay, for example, a lot of things he does, he genuinely thinks that he's doing what's best by Orel. But the Christina thing is funny because nobody, like, I've never heard a single person ever bring that up. You can't take someone's child from their house with knowing the parent, not just without the parents' consent, but knowing that they would explicitly not be okay with it.
I mean, I guess if it was like 3 teenagers doing that to and picking up their friend, though, like, it wouldn't be that different. So I guess that's probably the mindset she's coming from. Is it's like, oh, like, you know, we're just breaking her out, you know, like that's how it seems to her. It's not like malicious or anything.
Every time she makes a decision that's a bit questionable, it comes from a place of I experienced this hurt in the past, and I don't want Orel to experience the same hurt. So, like, even though it's not necessarily a good decision, there's no like malice or inappropriate like intention behind it.
You'll see where I'm going with this. I gotta give like a little bit of context first, but we don't know necessarily a lot about what her childhood was like. But when you are made to grow up too fast as a child, you have this kind of, it's like this internal dichotomy where you're too mature for your age, but you're also too immature for your age. So I wonder if because Stephanie sees herself as mature, because she is, and she acknowledges that she is the adult in the situation. But at the same time, I wonder if there's a subconscious part of her that feels more like a teenager, like feels more of herself to be the person she was when she was taken advantage of by Kim.
When I think of Stephanie, I think a lot of like, okay, first off, I want to say that like moral Orel, I feel at least it's queer media. I feel like the queerness is so interwoven into like the soul of what it is that, you know, if you try to remove it, it's not going to be the same story. There's really no other way to tell the story. Everything that Orel goes through, it's because he's being raised by a parent who, you know, is living a false life that he doesn't feel any joy in. Well, there's other aspects of it, but like, you know, that's really mainly the gist of it. I think a lot about like how Stephanie really is kind of a foil for Clay in a lot of ways, even though they never meet each other, at least as far as we know.
We know Clay at least knows who she is.
He knows who she is. She's, well, who doesn't know who she is? She grew up in Moralton. She's out and proud. She doesn't hide who she is. You know, I guess if you could see like her on one end of the spectrum of like, you know, fully being who she is and happy with herself, you have Clay at the other end of the spectrum where he's like completely in the closet and unwilling to ever, you know, even step out of it. And then you have Danielle kind of in the middle where it's like the glass closet.
Yeah, earlier in the script I said that Danielle doesn't, like, he never explicitly says that he's gay, but and I'm not the kind of person who likes to go like, oh, look at how this person acts and dresses, they must be, but this time.
But I do think that, you know, with his place in Moralton as like someone who's around kids a lot, who, you know, and, you know, probably has like a reputation for his accomplishments as an athlete, they overlook that sort of thing.
That's interestingly enough, the people in Moralton kind of do a little bit of what the fandom do, just in the opposite direction. People look at his objectively incorrect and unconscionable actions and excuse it because he's gay, and people in Moralton think that he's doing objectionable things in his private life, but they overlook it because of his more heteronormative accomplishments, his triumphs of performing his gender, sort of, so to speak.
And the fact that he's not open, he's not really open about it.
Exactly. Which is so fucked up because there are so many people in Moralton who believe that all gay men are predators, and they're still like, yeah, son, go ahead. Whatever it takes to get good track numbers.
And like circling back to Moral Orel as queer media, like I think it's, you know, important just to acknowledge that Dino Stamatopoulos is bisexual, and clearly his experiences and connection to the queer community do have an influence on what Moral Orel is and the characters and themes. And
yeah, it speaks, it's it's authenticity at its core.
I just want to question, like, it, just so we're not like spreading information that's not public. Like, is it confirmed? Like, did he confirm that he is, like, publicly?
Oh, he's confirmed it. Like, he's written songs about it. He's been open about it, and there was a commentary done over one of their panels at a Comic-Con, and he was very open about the fact that he's attracted to men.
Okay, I don't, I'm sure it's not a problem. I just don't want to like make claims, like, if it's not something that's public, to be like, oh yeah, this guy is 100% like said that he's that. It feels weird to just say it if he hasn't explicitly said it.
I mean, if he says it on a commentary, all bets are off.
No, you're right. As long as he said it, that's fine. I just, it's just because it's a real person. I just want to make sure the information's correct. But I trust your sources. I've seen those things.
But again, people, even if they don't know that, you can sense that someone in the writer's room has, understands what these characters are going through. All right, so moving on to the next point. Gay villains in media.
We talking about gay or queer coded?
Well, both gay and queer coded.
Like, Wes, we had a really interesting conversation about this like a week or so ago. We were talking about
Disney villains.
Like the Disney movies we grew up with, and like the ones that were made specifically in like the late 80s and through the 90s, that have villains that are extremely queer coded, like Ursula and the Little Mermaid, Scar and the Lion King. They're very clearly queer coded and have been influenced by queer culture. And
Ursula herself was, in her concept art, she was based off of Divine.
For those who don't know what Divine who Divine is, you're too young to be watching this video, please leave. Yeah, but we wanted to touch on intentionality, because like what separates having queer coded Disney villains from the gay villains who are just in the film to be beaten up and bashed and destroyed in a lot of 80s films. And I think it's like, it's the intention of it, because a lot of the queer coded villains in Disney films, they were, written and animated by queer people.
In terms of intentionality with that, with them being created by these queer artists, you can really see a lot of love in the way that these characters are made. Like, when you think of these Disney movies from that era, like, some of the first things you think of are the villains, like, because they're so memorable and like painstakingly crafted with like their appearance and the songs they sing. It's like they're always the most.
Nobody likes these new straight coded villains in Disney movies.
Yeah, get rid of them. We don't want them. like bring back Scar.
One of the most recent villains that I think people really enjoy and is memorable is Tamatoa from Moana, and what's his name from Jermaine Clement. He plays that crab so fucking gay.
Yeah, it was just
I'm gonna be real. I don't remember that villain. I'm sorry.
The next time, when you have time, the next time you have a free time, watch Shiny from Moana, the villain song. You'll see what I mean. But anyways, a lot of Disney villains, especially in the golden years, were gay artistes being like, okay, if this is how they want to see us, I'm gonna give that to them in a way that is very. It's quiet, but it's loud at the same time. Like, it's hard for me to put it into words, because it's like, it's one of those things that you just have to experience. But it's along the same vein why, gay people love monsters nowadays. I think we've discussed this before, of how they feel kinship with the role of the villain.
So, speaking of some of these people who like, really wrote their own queer experience into a lot of Disney films, Howard Ashman was like the guy driving most of the Disney Renaissance films, especially like the musical aspect of it. They were like, they were going through this dark age where they could not get a hit. They couldn't get people into movie seats to watch their films. And he came along, and his whole thing was that they were going to do films that were basically Broadway musicals. And I think The Little Mermaid was the first one. So he basically became the driving force of that. And he was he was openly gay. And I think that he died before the release of Beauty and the Beast.
I believe there's a an acknowledgement of that in the credits or something.
Yeah. But yeah, he was behind Little Shop of Horrors, The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin. I wanted to say The Lion King, but it seems he wasn't on there.
Yeah, but it seems like his influence was very much there.
In a way, a lot of the Disney villains and the magic touch that gay people tend to have with it is a very subtle way of showing people that we're not, we're here, we're queer, and we're not going anywhere. You can't have this without us. In a similar way that, a story doesn't necessarily need to have a villain, but it needs to have some sort of conflict. The story needs to move along in some way. It's a bit of like a yin-yang situation of sorts.
Not really. Well, we're still gay villains. But speaking of, there's a villain in Moral Orel in the traditional sense who has some queer coding, but is not like depicted as queer, which is why we didn't really go into it very much in the essay portion. And that is Frances Censordoll.
Frances Clara Censordoll, FCC.
The FCC. So, she has a drag role-like quality because she is, as we've said before, played by multiple male voice actors, but she's not depicted as a queer character, as opposed to like, in universe, characters don't really react to her voice as though it's something unusual. Though, Miss Secondopinionson, she, there's like a way that she presents herself and a way that others react to her that does suggest that she is a trans woman.
And with Miss Sense, so people can understand a little bit better, people who maybe aren't as well versed on drag, it's not just the fact that she's portrayed by a male character, but there's this character archetype within her character, and it's delved so deep into that it's almost ridiculous.
We talked a lot about we were reading her a lot from like I think from the Freudian perspective, so it was reading her as a woman who desires masculine power.
Yeah, because there's some people who watch her videos and haven't watched the show. A lot of people believe her to be queer because her story, her backstory, when she's speaking to her mother, it's never explicitly confirmed what the reason why her eggs was removed was. So people, to a lot of people, the easiest explanation is that she's trans, or that she's intersex, I mean. And there's a lot of different options there.
You can be both trans and intersex.
Yeah.
But like, for her, I do feel I don't know. It's really we don't know enough about her, but the way I read her, at least, she's not really a queer person.
No, I thought she was just a woman that had her eggs removed, like some sort of weird like dichotomy, like dystopian Christian super experiment. I'm making it sound really ridiculous, but
it does
No.
Well, like her while her story is her personal story is driven by a lack of agency over her own body from early childhood, and that can be read as an intersex experience, or it can also be read as a woman's experience.
Yeah, if something about if she was, it feels a little bit. I don't know if wrong is the right word, but it has a different layer to it. If like the whole character's like main conflict is robbing people of their agency because she herself was robbed of agency. So if you were to read her in that way, it can be a little bit muddy, I guess, in how the depiction is.
Yeah, at the same time, I feel like, that does kind of make her a rich character, that you can look at her through all these different lenses and, it's see her in like a different way.
Yeah, she's really fascinating. Like there's a lot you could kind of read on her. and project.
I won't go too deep into this because it's not super relevant. It's just something for our audience maybe to research in their own time. I saw this video. I was watching this video the other day talking about how in like Christianity in medieval times, socially, women were not considered to be like a holy, like men were the holier gender of sex. I mean, and there was almost this idea of maidenhood as its own separate gender, which I found really interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, especially in her,
because it feels it's in the same vein of what she brags about, you know.
Sorry, maybe I'm like maiden as in like a virgin.
Yes.
Okay.
So we know why we don't think Censordoll is queer or trans, but we can talk about a character who we do read as trans, even though it was never confirmed in the show.
Miss Secondopinionson, and it's difficult because something that I feel a lot of people struggle when they're getting into moral oral is you don't have to understand the background of the people writing the show or anything, but there's just so much like intellectual and artistic experience put into a lot of the choices made. So it would be easy to see her character and read it as, oh, that's an early 2000s transphobia joke. But with everything that we know about Dino and the rest of the show, it's just subjectively not. Like, if she is read as a trans character, yeah, it's kind of funny that she has this deep voice and the subversion of expectations, and she pinches her nose, but it's not meant to attack her.
I don't think it's treated as. I don't think it's treated as funny. I think it's treated as something that she struggles with and deals with on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, even in the beginning, I didn't think those jokes were like they were under some sort of hurtful like lens. Like it was just something that happened. It wasn't like a badumtish moment, It wasn't like something
it's
that was
it's a little bit of like a David Lynch moment.
It's almost like the camera was rolling. It's like I feel like I wouldn't necessarily call it a joke. It was kind of more like like we're seeing something that we weren't really supposed to see.
Yeah.
In that
that's a great way of putting it.
Where it lingers on her like that.
If I recall,
I don't know, because that's like a private.
If I recall
moment
correctly, she's still doing her pinching nose thing when she's speaking to Fakey, and he can see her do that.
Yeah.
I thought Fakey speaks to her, and she's speaking normally. At one point,
one scene where she's on the phone with I think Millie, and she's pinching her nose, and then when she hangs up the phone, she's like, "Oh, what like what a day," in her deep voice.
What a day.
So she was not in the same room as him when she spoke normally?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to. I don't know what I was thinking of if I just like put two scenes in my head or something.
No, they were all the way somewhere else in a different building. Oh, there's another scene actually. I think it's from Love, because she's talking with him in his office and holding her nose while she talks. And yeah, and it was the scene where he was mad that nobody was using the Jesus stuff. On another note, like Fakey, does he know how many queer people he has hired at the school? I mean, if he is aware of like the teachers and personnel that he hires being queer, I guess that's like a point for him.
Yeah, he's like, I don't care as long as you can do your job kind of badly, but do it anyway.
Wait, wait! I just realized if we go by like the, Dolores and Sculptham and everyone, like if we go by the fact that we think that Dolores is queer as well, then like every teacher that we see on screen is like it's queer.
Oh my god! Yeah.
And we also think Putty's bi and he's their science teacher.
But as Miss Secondopinionson, there's a quote you have here, Glam, from someone near and dear to you.
Yeah, so we mentioned at the video that we all identify as queer, and my girlfriend, she was a little shy, so she didn't want to read the quote herself today, but I'll read it because we asked her about her. I recently binge watched the show with her, and she has a lot of great takes, but specifically I wanted to get her opinion on Miss Secondopinionson, as she's our second opinion. Okay, sorry. My opinion of Miss Secondopinionson as a trans woman. To be completely honest, I think it's a pretty accurate and respectful depiction. I can say that, at least personally, it takes a lot of effort to constantly do the femme voice. Seeing a character like me just drop into the deep voice honestly made me feel pretty seen. I feel like as a trans woman, we're always expected to be on, if that makes sense. So it made me very happy to see a character in her vein. And that makes perfect sense with her even holding her nose in front of Fakey. Even when people are... I struggle with how to word this in a way that's not going to come off incorrectly, but there's like a sort of performance to it that you're constantly expected to be practicing.
Yeah, and I feel like for trans individuals, there's a pressure to be like stealth or, you know, passing, and that's like, you know, the ideal of transness, and people who are transgender should be valid regardless of whether they're stealth or, you know, I'm not wording myself well, but
I get what you mean. You shouldn't have to look a certain way to have your identity respected. And if I recall correctly, like, Joe does make fun of her voice, but he never says like, "Oh, you sound like a man." I don't recall.
I don't think
it's
Joe
a very childish.
I think Joe is under the impression like he doesn't know, like, to Joe, like, she is just his big sister.
It's likely that if she transitioned, it was before he was born, or, you know, when he was a baby or something.
Yeah.
Because all he says is that
And
he
like,
thinks her voice is ugly, and that he thinks that's
Yeah,
why
like
she's not married.
Yeah, like the way he makes fun of her voice is very childish, and it doesn't have any like
No, he doesn't.
deeper meaning behind it. Like, it's just like, oh, your voice is ugly.
He doesn't get it. He's just being a brat.
Yeah.
I forget if we see her because she talks to her father about his dementia and how his memories are going away, but I forget if we know if, like, she's kind of taken advantage of the fact that he's lost his memory to be like, no, I've always been a woman, you're just misremembering, or if she, like, has to deal with the fact that her father is, like, misgendering her every day.
No, I think okay, so I have a theory about that. Because, you know, sometimes patients with dementia, they're going to think that someone they're talking to is someone else, or someone who might look like them.
Oh.
So, you know, he insists that Joe's mother died in childbirth. And it could be possible that when he sees Joe, he's not actually seeing Joe, and he's seeing Miss Secondopinionson as a kid.
Oh, that's heartbreaking, but I'm gonna integrate that into my belief system.
That's just my theory. I wanted to save this for the Secondopinionson speculative, but that's my headcanon about that.
We can go further into it there, but it's definitely that's a great theory.
But yeah, like within canon, we really don't know what the deal is with like what her father's aware of and what he isn't. But I like that theory.
Yeah, I mean, he's working. He's working. They still have him working at some time. Like, we don't know, like, when they pulled him off, but, like, I guess they still dress him up and send him off to work sometime.
I mean, I think they would have had to pull him off after what he did with Bendy, like that.
He was there. Yeah. We see him in God. What the fuck? God, why am I forgetting the name of the episode? In Holy Visage, he's there.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
So, like, clearly they don't give a fuck.
Well, we don't need to be talking about him right now, but we can talk about our little pet peeve.
Speaking of the hospital.
All right.
So I think people, they like the rumor of Bendy was supposed to end up with Stephanie. I think it's a misunderstanding of the fact that Agnes Sculptham was supposed to end up with a woman in one of the scrapped scripts. So
interesting. Yeah, because they're like, oh, they both have black hair. I don't remember. I've seen the show in the early 2000s. I don't remember any of the shit.
Basically they were in the same episode. I think they're just misunderstanding which of the women in that episode who has rape trauma was going to end up with a woman.
Yeah.
And there are some people who, with their idea of Bendy being gay, they're not going off of, like, some... Like, they know that it's not necessarily true, but they see her that way. And I'm not going to diminish anyone's headcanons, you know? Like, if you are like, I like this character, I want her to be gay, great, more power
Just
to
stop
you.
telling people it's
But
real.
Yes, exactly. But there are also some people who believe that being gay makes, like we talked about this a little bit earlier, that they generally think that being gay makes you a better person.
Wow.
So that because of her trauma with men in the past, that she's gonna immediately be healed in matters of love and sex if it's with a woman, because women are inherently gentler and purer, which is like you're getting a little bit into turf rhetoric at that point.
Yeah.
And like speaking like as a lesbian, the idea that Bendy would, realize she's a lesbian and get with Stephanie, and then everything's happily ever after, her trauma's gone, like she's healed by lesbian sex, is just so ridiculous to me. It's like she has such deep-seated sexual trauma that like she does not need to be in a relationship with a woman to heal. Like she needs to take a step back from sex. Like what we see from her character, she's still a very sexual person, and we see that, the behaviors she engages in are continuing to harm her. Like, she has this, she goes and she's having this affair with Fakey, and then she comes home and she age regresses with, Hubby Bear and Sunny Bear, and like clearly she's hurting so much. And it's like as cute as the idea of like her being with Stephanie is, it's like that is not going to heal her in any way. In fact, it's just going to keep this trauma going and probably just add another level of confusion. And she needs to heal this trauma she's had since childhood, and just having more sex is not going to fix that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm glad that you
Yep.
brought that up, because we see her continue to do that even after Joe has begun to live with her, because I
Yeah.
believe she was one of the women who got with Putty and narcissism, and she was like,
Yeah.
and you can see she's still using it as like some sort of like, I guess I want to say like coping mechanism. Like maybe she still can't be honest with her feelings in that way, but like what she needs to do is she needs to be away from that stuff so she can
Oh, well,
Yeah.
what happens is Putty tells her, like, he compliments her in some way, and she immediately is like feeling like that sexual attraction. She's like, I want to sleep with you, and it's like that's, and I feel like that's kind of like the thing for her, is she gets pulled in by like this validation, and it's like hinted that's what happened with Dr. Secondopinionson. It's like, well, your dad thought I was smart.
Yeah, she was a grooming victim. She was a grooming victim, so I feel like, the way that she responds to others making advances at her, or even just like complimenting her, like it's almost like she can't
Yeah.
not think that she has to do that.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that
Yeah.
that was like a thing
Yeah.
that she was. I was saying that was like part of her coping.
Yeah,
is that she
no, I
does.
totally agree with
We
you.
agree. We're on
Okay,
the
I
same
wasn't
page.
sure if y'all were saying I misspoke there.
Yeah,
But
when she first gets into, I'm gonna transition back into her and the repressional. I wanted to mention first that people always overlook the fact that in her ultimate comfort zone, where she gets to be happy and a respected member of a nuclear family, she has a husband, which I feel is like a huge clue, but at the same time, when she first goes into the repression with Putty, she says that she hates men, but that she doesn't want to.
I
Yeah.
think that if anything, she needs to
Yes.
figure out stuff about her life before she could start exploring her sexual identity
Yeah.
and her.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I think she's unspecified. Like
Well,
we have no
she
clue.
hates men because of the way they treat
Yeah.
her.
Yeah, we have no clue what her orientation is.
Yeah.
It could be anything, but we just don't have enough information.
Mm.
But I think that definitely she has things that she needs to address first, and when she finds ways to heal past that, then she can she can move into that part of her life and try and discover those parts about herself. It's just a very complicated situation.
I mean, what bothers me about the Stephanie Bendy thing, is I think a lot of people assuming that Stephanie wants to be a parent, or that she should be Joe's parent, or that she should be like a parental figure to anyone. Because I think it's like,
I'm so glad you
like,
brought that up.
with I can say I do identify with the way that Stephanie, like, she sort of doesn't like, you can feel like kids are cute, and you can sometimes think, yeah, it would be cool to be a parent, but you can know on like a fundamental level that you wouldn't be good as a parent, and that's not something you should
Yes.
pursue.
Yeah, some
Um,
people
Yeah.
don't want to do that. Like
It is such a foundational aspect of misogyny and women's oppression that there is an innate part of us that's good at taking care of children and that we have to want that. So it feels so like I have like this visceral reaction to when people say, "Oh, she's good at it, so she must secretly want it."
just because I'm
Like-
good with kids doesn't mean that I want to be a mom.
Yeah, I mean, I
She is so scared by the idea of having maternal feelings or being a mom that she self-harms.
Yeah.
Putting piercings is self-expression, but doing it, putting a needle in your skin every time you have a feeling that you don't want to have, it's self-harm.
Yeah, it's like a compulsive response to an unpleasant feeling. And I also think, like with motherhood and womanhood being tied together like they are, I think that and lesbians being looked down on as like, less womanly as a straight woman. I think like being a mother can kind of almost like redeem a lesbian like the eyes of society. It's like they're like a more valid woman, or like they're doing womanhood correctly than if they don't have children. And so I think like this need for Stephanie to be a mom, I think plays into that. It's like, oh, she's a better woman, or like a more real woman if she is a mother.
I think she makes an amazing mentor to the kids in Moralton.
Yes.
I don't think she should have to be a mother. Agnes is open to being a mother who is queer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
guys.
And she's a great a great comparison with Bendy because she's also a victim.
I just feel like people
Yeah.
sometimes overlook some of these characters that have these genuine experiences that they could project these stories onto because they're already there and existing in their narrative in favor for like more quote unquote like popular or like or if we really want to if we really want to call it out, yeah, the more stereotypically feminine ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people always overlook the fact that Agnes has like her nose is different from the other characters as well. She dresses kind of like frumpy.
I don't even. I think Agnes is kind of in the middle. Like I didn't really like read her like particularly feminine or like like. I don't really read her that masculinely either.
She's unconventionally feminine.
Yeah, she just kind of seems like a more like low key person. Like she's not. I don't think she wears like really any makeup, and she just seems like kind of like a normal person to me.
Another thing that I feel people are uncomfortable with Agnes like being the queer character because I think they see her attractions as perverse, considering like how well, first off, it's I
people don't want to talk about it as a side effect of being like as somebody who's like kind of personally relates. People don't want to speak about it in blunt terms. They don't want to acknowledge that sometimes when you are raped, you don't have a palatable, happy, healing response to it. And I think a lot of people people don't acknowledge her being queer outside of it's so fun that she was gonna end up with the Mary is the police officer's name, right? Mary, a plot twist.
Yeah, because she's gonna marry her.
But also because she's a happy plot twist, Mary happy.
Oh, that's sweet. But yeah, the female option being happier doesn't erase the fact that Agnes's attraction to men is real and valid.
I think her attraction to men really only being shown in this really dark, complex light because season 3 got cut so short. Like I think that like people that turns people off to her character.
If anyone can say, unfortunately, I'm attracted to men.
Yeah, no, for real. Agnes Sculptham, bisexual icon.
And it's kind of interesting, like the three-way connection there, because of the connection between Danielle and Bendy, like some kind of possible familial relation. The connection between Agnes and Bendy is being characters with similar stories and similar fandom responses. There's also a connection between Agnes and Danielle.
Yeah. In a way, you know, we know Danielle didn't behave weirdly with Orel, beyond like taking him to a weird party. But
He shouldn't have done
was
that.
a little weird with he was a little weird with Doey.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, I think it would, but I think for her,
Like,
but okay, you can say, oh, it was a little weird, but I don't think she had any intentions of doing anything with him. That was very clear. She was just
Definitely
taking,
not.
she was just
Totally
taking
not,
advantage of
no.
him on like a social level.
Yeah, and like we dunk on Doey a lot, but but you know, we do think what she did to him in courtship was inappropriate, especially
Absolutely.
as like an authority figure in his life. You know, he's so desperate for love and attention, and she took advantage of that because she wants you know, material goods. She likes being given presents. And something Wes and I talked about recently was that Agnes, as like an unmarried woman, you know, she doesn't have that man in her life to like be a provider and spoil her. And like normally, you know, as like a woman in Moralton, like she'd be getting gifts from her husband, but she doesn't have one of those. So, you know, it's just her. So, you know, there's this kid who's like so willing to spoil her and give her things that she probably wants really, really badly. And so she's like, yeah, I'm gonna take this take this kid's money.
That I have like an aside I just thought about with I wonder if the way that she dresses, like kind of frumpy and not very, like I wonder if that started around the time when she dyed her hair, because or maybe she just likes to accessorize, but it makes me wonder because she likes all these flashy, showy visual things. Maybe she did dress a little bit more like revealing or maybe more traditionally feminine before. And it's kind of like a cognitive dissonance because one half of her like kind of craves the sexual freedom and the, I don't want to say attention, but you get what I'm trying to say. And then another half of her wants to cover up and not be looked at.
Yeah.
And the way she talks to people, she kind of drives them away.
I think in Alone we see that picture, like that really tiny picture of her on like her family tree, and I think she's wearing blue.
I think she is too. I'll go double check that though.
The way women in the show are written is just amazing.
Yeah, we do have a video planned on gender roles in Moralton, especially focusing on the women in the show. So we'll definitely dive more into the stuff with Agnes in that video.
One last thing about Agnes we should talk about, I think. In terms of Mary, do we think she knew she could, like, is Mary kind of like her bisexual awakening, or do we kind of think she always had something going on there?
It seems more like an awakening because she's surprised by it. And Senna, you have this point that, like, you know, even though it sucks that their marriage license was denied, it's, you know, it is better that it was denied because they had just met.
Yeah, and like I feel like that can like lead people into falling into the same trap that, you know, every single heterosexual couple in Moralton faces. You know, like these people don't know each other. They meet each other and they get hitched like a week later. Like, how else are all these girls in Help getting married at the same time? Like, we know that there's pressure to do it quickly. So the fact that, you know, I understand that maybe Sculptham's motivations in that situation were a little bit different. You know, she knows she had a kid on the way. She wants some sort of figure in the child's life besides herself. But, you know, there is something very interesting and very, I don't want to say like, oh, it's sweet that they got denied, because obviously it's horrible, but, you know, there's like an opportunity there. You know, they can stay with each other, you know, in a non-formal way, and they can learn who each other really are, and they can.
And if they realize that it's not a good match, then they can just move on.
Yeah, and if they are a good match, then hell, they'll find a way. They'll move to Sinville.
Yeah, they don't have to do the whole fundy, we're gonna get married within like a month of meeting each other because you know, that's the godly thing to do when we want to have sex thing.
It's also a lesbian stereotype. They're U-hauling it.
They were forced not to U-haul.
Oh yeah, there's the picture. Yeah, she is wearing blue.
Okay, we have a list of our top 10 Moralton citizens that we think are gay or queer.
Can I read it?
In no particular order, but go ahead.
No particular order, but there's 10 of them, so it's a top 10. Even though there's no order.
All right. Okay. Reverend Putty is fighting his bisexual demons in church every
Putty's
Sunday.
mind is
Okay. He is most definitely like. Is he a 4 or a 5 on the Kinsey scale?
He like.
I mean, like.
Wait, no. He's a 1
definitely
or a 2. He's a 1 or a 2. I had that
women.
backwards. Because the Kinsey scale is from straightest.
I think he might be like a 2 or a 3.
Kinsey scale.
Can you send me it so I can see it? Because I don't know the exact wordings for that.
Okay, varying.
I think it's in Satan, but he's practically advertising homosexuality.
Yeah.
Like he's trying to sell it to the congregation.
He's like down for it, but he's so scared.
Try not to lose your virginity.
Yeah, like the way he talks about it, he's like them pressing their bodies together, and yeah,
so the scale is from 0 exclusively heterosexual to 6 exclusively homosexual.
I think he would need to have his first. I think he would need to have his first like skin to skin contact with a man before he really knew for a fact how he felt.
Okay, we don't know if he hasn't had that.
Maybe
though.
You're right. You're right. I don't know. Maybe he did.
Because I think it's one of those things where he does talk about things he should not be sharing all the time, but I think that's the one thing he could keep to himself if he did. Maybe he wouldn't even know that he had a gay experience because he's like justifying it to himself in his head.
He said the thing about like justifying horsing around in like the locker room.
Oh my god. He's like, yeah, a blonde athlete, another brunette athlete, a third brunette athlete, maybe one with white hair, maybe another blonde who's kind of a little bit brunette, happens to be a cop. Anyways.
Oh my god.
That's from like the Putty's sermons, like shorts, right?
Oh, I actually have to
watch
he
had a gay comedy partner.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm so straight, I didn't even know he was gay.
Yeah, like okay, buddy.
Like he has to justify it to himself. He's a 1 or a 2. He's a 1 or a 2.
Definitely, yeah.
I think it's 2.
Go ahead.
I think it just speaks volumes that he clearly had another sermon planned in Satan, but literally just like Danielle walking into the church in that yellow suit, he was like so set off by that. He was like, I need to give a sermon showing that I dislike the homosexuals. And then it was just like he just telling on himself the whole time. And
this is a very side note. You can cut this if it's not relevant, but I know that Florence gasped at the Cineville bus, but with his whole renegade thing, I think she would like it. I think she would want to watch.
Anyways, she's Fujoing, I guess.
Oh my god! She did not like the Cineville bus.
Wait,
because she didn't get to see.
What are you talking about? She didn't like the Cineville bus.
That was in...
Yeah, she like gasped.
Are you talking about the homophobus, or are you talking about something else?
No, Presents for God. When the bus was going to Sinville and Dowie and Orel were about to get on the bus, she and Dottie walked past it and they looked really offended, and she was like, oh how horrible or something.
Yeah, like that wasn't just a gasp. She was like actually like
she was mad she wasn't on it, I guess.
Maybe yeah, I was gonna say maybe she's more upset about the loose women than the.
Wait, I don't think I ever asked. We can cut this, obviously, but do you think Florence is like just straight up like putty sexual? Like, what is your thought of Miss Florence? Because I know a lot of people like to ship her with Dottie, which I hate that.
I don't think she's into women.
I hate that shit.
Yeah, no, I think she's just. I think. She's,
oh, okay. she won't set you on fire, but
She when her and Putty move in together, she leans over to him. She whispers, "All of the zebras, they're both boys."
Wait, what did you say? All of the zebras?
All the kissing zebra figurines.
God,
dude, you can't tell anyone I told you.
He's Fujoing out.
Oh my god, the Fujo Florence arc. I'm gonna cry. Right? Also, I know we made slight jokes about like I don't know, like, we read that one fic and I was thinking about, like, bisexual Roger, but I don't think he's bi. I think he's just a little toasty.
No.
Yeah.
We're
not on that list yet. We're not on that list yet.
Little,
Okay,
hint of
sorry.
fruitiness
Well,
in it.
he's not on that list.
Okay,
I wasn't
back
gonna
to-
even bring him up. I was just gonna say I don't think because he didn't
Yeah,
care about Putty. He said he
they've
didn't
been
care
added
about
to
the
the list.
guy. You know.
Moving on from Reverend Putty,
Orel.
Mr. Carson is definitely gay.
Yes.
He's got those glasses.
Cat eye glasses.
Cat eye glasses. There's just like an air about
The
him.
ascot, even though it's part of the uniform.
I don't think they're cat eye. I don't
What
know
are
if
they
that's
then?
because what Dolores wears are cat eye glasses. They're like those are
Well, the ones he wears are like they've got a little
they're
flare
circular,
to
but
them.
they have like a bridge on the side. So like, but I get what you're saying. It's an awkward shape.
Yeah.
And on the
Yeah.
principle of the matter, if it does seem like something they would do in the show to subvert the idea that gay scout leaders are also predatory.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
if
that
anything,
is like a
he's like
legit
annoyed
thing.
by
Like there was a whole scandal.
Yeah, no, it does happen. It's just not subverting the idea that gay men in positions of power are always going to be predatory.
Yes.
You know what? So
anyways, next on the list, the people in the Putty family love women who wear pink. Dolly Forgetti.
She's a lesbian.
Most definitely. Okay. I have reasons for believing this, but like if I went into them, I would have to bring out my Pepe Sylvia board, and nobody's ready for that.
Can you give the abridged version?
Please.
Basically, like, okay. She's an independent woman who don't need no man. First of all, she runs her own business. She basically owns her own bar, which like we don't see a lot of female business owners in Moralton besides her and Stephanie. Which, by the way, I think they would make a great couple. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because also she just I think she hides it very well. And also we saw her at the Glory Hallelujah hole, like beating herself up over something. So we don't know what that was.
Mhm.
She might have like repressed gay guilt or something. Yeah. Internalized lesbophobia.
The TED Talk will be uploaded on November the 14th. No,
we can
I also think that only a lesbian could wrangle Clay Puppington like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Also, yeah, she doesn't like, tell
that gay man
anybody
in
about
line.
what him and Danielle get up to in there because she's like, okay, yeah, I'll keep your secret. But then when he's acting childish and saying disgusting things to her, she has to leave because she was going to out him in front of everybody if she stayed there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's gonna fucking out his ass.
I need a compilation of like Dolly like whipping people with the nunchucks she has behind the counter.
So we can cut this part, but if it's not just her whipping herself because of the guilt, if it's also for sexual pleasure, I think that's another layer to the Dolly Steph thing with the piercings. They both seem to have a little bit of a masochistic streak.
But if they're both the masochist, who's the sadist?
Well, I mean, some people are sadomasochists. If Dolly was whipping herself, so
okay.
Dolly.
She needs a partner.
Okay.
So next is Poppet Posabule. We think Poppet's a lesbian, but I think we should save this for our Posabule video because there's
We've
a lot
talked
to
about
talk
it in
about.
passing,
Yeah,
like
so
slightly.
This is just us kind of mentioning it for the list, but we will. You got to watch the video if you want to know why.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, when it comes out, we're excited about this one, so we'll do this one soon.
We already talked about Orel in the Orel video.
Yes. Okay, here's the one. I want to explain this one because this came from my heart. Sal Figurelli is bi.
He's also Italian.
He's also Italian, which we all know is the I in LGBTQIA.
Italians are known for saying "Mamma Mia" like the 2008 musical comedy with Meryl Streep.
Wait. Ellie, explain your reasoning because I was blown away.
Yes, I'm gonna explain. I'm gonna explain. Everyone, shh. I'm explaining. Sal Figurelli is bi, And this is because he can do it all. This man runs every business, he has every job, and he approaches everything with a no-prop attitude. He can be with anyone, and he's happy to do it. This man, it doesn't matter what they've got going on, like, down there, who they are. I guess we could say he's pansexual too, like, you know, bi-pan, like, whatever you want to interpret it as. That he can go both ways.
Yeah.
Before crossing the street.
He can. No prob.
Yeah.
Oh my god, you had a
That was
presentation
amazing.
ready.
I honestly.
Thank you.
I agree.
Okay. Next one is Dale Armature. And I think I think Dale Armature is bi because I think he wanted to be with both Lily and Leaf.
Yes. And he wanted Leaf, and then Leaf wanted Lily, but then he also wanted Lily, so then he's mad that they're together without him as their third.
I think he's definitely more interested.
That's probably the reason they dumped him, because he propositioned them.
I mean, I think that he definitely was like exclusively interested in Lily, but I don't think I don't think that he wouldn't have been opposed to like hate fucking Leaf. Like, because he did cut Leaf's face out of the picture, so it's clear that he wanted him out. But I could see a hate fuck.
Maybe he did that after Leaf rejected him.
Also Dale is voiced by Dino. And like Dale is like one of his like partial self-insert characters.
That one feels like
I mean, we can't assume that just because they're really similar.
But like we've talked about,
they are
similar. Like, the characters that are kind of like
the three characters who are kind of sort of his self-inserts are Putty and Clay and Dale, I think. Oh, he talked about thinking of a spin-off of Dale going to New York once.
I love that. I love Dale. He's one of my favorite side characters.
Really, anytime a side character is voiced by Dino, it's like awesome.
Who else did Dino voice?
Raymond.
Well, we have one on this list, another one, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's on the list. Yeah. Yeah.
He voiced the guy from Pleasure, the masochistic guy.
He voiced he voiced Bartholomew.
He did voice Bartholomew.
He voiced Raymond. He voiced he was the original voice for Arthur, but we know he's not gay.
Well, everyone who he voiced who he didn't replace is definitely bi then.
What do you mean?
That's how we
So you're trying to say Raymond is bi?
Maybe.
Raymond's bi.
No.
Wait, okay. If Raymond's bi, this means Clay had a chance.
No, shut up.
Wait, guys, we might kill Senna. I don't want her to have a stroke, please.
I don't even want to think about that. That is the fucking weirdest fucking slash.
It's a really funny idea, though. You have to admit it.
No, I thought that was funny. I was like, damn, that is the character he would be like saying the name of during their sex, but like, and it's the most awkward thing ever. It's like
when he says your dad's name during sex.
They never speak of it again.
Like, yeah, that's like one of those memories that's so horrible you just forget it instantly. Like, anyway, moving on to the on topic now that Glam's back.
Okay, Senna, this one's yours.
Yes. So I'm gonna just preface this, it's just a vibe. Like, I don't have like a specific reason for this. But I have like a weird affliction with this character. I'm fascinated by her for no reason. Dolores Soupbound, I think that she, you know, maybe she's not that into guys, or maybe she's just bi. I don't know. It could be either or, but she
could be bi, she could be gay, she could be trans, she could be
I guess you could read her trans as well, because I mean, I've seen that before, so I'm not even gonna say that I haven't seen that. So yeah, she could be anything you want.
It's something about the
I just get this vibe from her. She's got that perfect like I'm not trying to say Dolores Soupbound marry me, but like I think I just really like her aesthetic. She's got that like 50s like you know, like I don't know what to call that, but like it's that like librarian like poodle skirt wearing accessory like you know, she just got that look, that 50s look. I like it.
But also the frosted tips are very contemporary.
If you want to exactly because of the frosted tips, if you want to read her as trans, she does not have toner. They're very yellow. She's very DIY.
Yeah.
That was a post
with her hair and her
move.
body.
Oh my god. Okay. Another one that's so near and dear to my heart. Greg Succession, Ken Awkwarding. And truly, for me, this comes from so we all know I love Succession. For me, because Ken Awkwarding looks exactly like Greg Succession, I think he works at City Hall, right? And there's like a Tom and Greg situation going on with him and Clay. And Ken is Clay's special little guy. And like the thing is, they're both gay, and unlike in Succession, it's not mutual insanity. It's Clay is so like Ken's a special little guy. He really likes Ken. Ken thinks Clay is weird as hell and is very uncomfortable with him. So it's a bit different from the actual Tom and Greg dynamic where there's just this mutual insane codependency.
Clay's
Here's
just
like a
not aware that his interactions can be construed as sexual harassment.
Yeah,
because his whole friendship
Clay
with Danielle
doesn't
has
realize.
just fucked up that entire notion.
Yeah. See, so for Clay, he thinks just like male camaraderie. He thinks he's just like made a friend.
It's so sad because he needs a friend.
Okay. You said
does
that
need
you
a
think
friend.
Ken is gay. I think he's questioning because he's so awkward and unsure of everything.
That's fair. Yeah, I could see that too.
But have you ever seen Greg Succession and
But,
Ken
like-
Awkwarding in the same room? I didn't think so.
Wait, so
They're the same
because
person.
He's in a live action show and he's in the Clay show. He has the same isekai powers as
Oh my
him.
God.
Oh my god, shut up.
Oh my god. But yeah, no, he's gay, maybe questioning, and he's Clay's special little guy. Clay makes him nervous, and Clay just thinks that's his best friend, but only at work.
This is
Only at work.
It's a fic today.
We want to say consistent.
All right, Wes, you want to do this one?
So
Last
but not least, we have Flygron. And I think that Flygron is an omnisexual, solo polyamorous Satanist who works at Blockbuster. And being a Satanist and working at Blockbuster is like part of his sexuality.
Yes. There's no arguing that. That's canon.
He functions the same way as like the Mo guy sexualities, but he would also be like he sees himself as like above that.
So
like he's like a freak in a
I don't
cool
think I ever
way.
understood. Can someone clarify to me where Flygron's house was located? Was it supposed to be in Moralton or was it somewhere else?
I think
Or
it was
was
a
that
little
just,
out of
like-
town.
Like Otherton?
I don't know. It was just like out of the way.
But it
so-
wasn't in
You're not a
Moralton, I
big-
was thinking. Like,
he-
there's no way, but like
He works at Blockbuster, but he has that house. He has to have rich parents, and he's a disappointment.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Wait,
I don't
do you
think
guys
he's
think his
from
parents live
Moralton.
there?
Where?
In the castle.
In the house that
In
was
Bla-
the
in
orgy
where?
was at.
In that big ass
Yeah.
house? Oh my god, yes. No, yes.
Yeah, they're
yes.
just
His
no.
mom made all the
That sounds
snacks.
so tropey. Yes.
Aw.
His parents are upstairs watching
Yes.
60 Minutes.
That
while
is
he's-
so. That is so fucking. That is just a real thing. Like I can't.
Also, is Flygron not the name?
No,
of
that's
Pokemon?
Flygon.
Maybe he's into Pokemon and he just named himself after a Pokemon, but with an R.
I also want to say he's not from Moralton because Moralton wouldn't have a Blockbuster
No, absolutely not.
because they don't even like
no,
watch
no,
TV
no.
there.
Yeah, he's
His
just
real name
from
is probably,
some
like,
regular
fucking Fletcher or some shit.
Fletcher. That is so his name.
Fletcher. Yeah.
Wait, what did you
That
say?
his name is
Wow, he's
Fletcher.
giving
real
him
name
an
is probably
entire
Fletcher.
lore.
Dude, it's so easy, guys. Just take any you don't need more oral OCs. Just take any character from the background and you can literally make them whoever you want. It's crazy. It's fun.
Like look at what we've done with like Dolly and Ken and
Like
Flygron.
you don't even it's so simple. It's more fun because you're building the world out. Go have fun.
Dolly
Yeah,
and
go
Ken
be
and
creative.
Flygron sitcom AU. It's like Three's Company where they find them in their bathtub.
Oh, Flygron.
Now for the straight people.
Ill.
First and foremost on the list of morals and citizens that we do not think are queer are Kim and Carl Latchkey. Those two are the most aggressively heterosexual characters I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Stop trying to ship her with Stephanie. It's fucking weird. It's so fucking weird.
Yeah, Kim, like, it's made really clear that she was taking advantage of Stephanie when she was kissing her for attention. And this is not something that doesn't happen in real life. So, like,
yeah.
It's
out of the realm of let people have fun with their headcanons, and is starting to toe the line of you're shipping somebody with somebody who low-key, like, it's not like sexual assault, but it's like not cool.
It's just malicious.
I mean, some people will think that Kim is like bi and closeted, but like, you know, we've had like the closet situation with Clay already, and it's nothing like what Kim was doing to Stephanie. So like
all of it was motivated by like wanting to upset Reverend Putty, and then doing it because Carl thought it was like funny or arousing, and also just like Kim is so awful to Stephanie. Like, why would there's absolutely nothing there that's like shows a sign of like a redeemable, like interesting relationship. It's literally just Kim bullying Stephanie and taking.
I mean, I got the vibe that their friendship was like the like preppy girl taking advantage of like the more like tomboyish girl and like faking a friendship with her, but I don't know if that's true or not. They could have been genuine friends and she was just shitty, but like
I don't know how genuine their friendship was, to be honest.
I think it was the first thing that I was saying. Like that's how I've read it, but anyway.
Honestly, like some friendships you have in your childhood and like in high school, they're just not great. Like Art Posabule, we don't think he's queer.
I just think it's boring to depict those characters as like complete mirrors of Wilburton.
I think it's funny that he you know, his haircut makes him look gay, but just having a gay haircut doesn't make you gay.
And the wine drinking.
There's not really a lot to him. It's just like
I mean, the Posables are kind of a blank slate. Like, let's be honest. Like, everything that we put on them is our own like take. So I mean, people can assume whatever they want about them, but I just think it's boring. To, like,
they are mildly educated takes that have like root in things that we notice about them in the show, but we can't confirm anything. So it is just a headcanon thing ultimately. Do you want to take this one, Senna?
Oh, well, let's see. How do I say this and not be rude? I you guys need to mediate me a lot here.
Okay.
So
okay. I can kick you off here by saying I would love to see this character les out, but I don't believe that she.
I would
likes
even
women.
accept her being bi, because of course that wouldn't. I would like welcome that completely. But here's the thing. We saw Numb, like we saw what, for me, the main thing I took away from that is, you know, if she was really willing to, this is my favorite joke to make, if she was really willing to go to the clam shack, she would have, okay? Because there's women, there's sad women whose husbands are not attentive to them. I'm not going to name any specific people because it's very popular in the fandom and I have a fucking vendetta against it, but
hey, by that time that character was out,
blunt.
So she was
you're right, you're absolutely right. So anyway, never happening, girlies. But no, I think I just think that, you know, we would have seen it there. I think and you could say, oh, blah blah blah, closeted, but like I don't see it with her. Every object that she uses is cylindrical.
Roberta's really straight,
cylindrical,
guys.
as we say.
Maybe this is a little controversial, but like people like with a character that's pretty much 100% confirmed to be straight, people could say, oh well, they're in the closet, but then you could say that about people that are 100% confirmed to be gay, but you would be mad about that because it's kind of not cool.
Yeah, it's just
when we see people like shipping Roberta with women, like again, totally.
Yeah, I mean,
fine.
do your free your spirit, you know, like I'm not. It doesn't really, like, at the end of the day, it's not hurting anybody. Ship who you want. But for me, it's about character integrity and preserving the narrative, and I just don't see it as something in the direct canon. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I think what they do is, they copy and paste Clay's arc onto Blibberta. And it's like, if you find that so fascinating, Clay's right there.
And it's kind of fucked up because, like, you shouldn't need Clay's story to sympathize with Blibberta. Her life is fucked up enough.
Let's normalize the differences that they have and let them heal through their own ways. Like,
they're both going through like really unique and specific to their identity struggles.
Exactly. Like, again, do I like the idea of Blibberta, lesing out? Yes, I do. I love it.
That's what Poppet Posapule is for. That's why we have Poppet, okay?
Yeah.
Exactly. Speaking of Blibberta loving cylindrical things.
God.
Roger Papermouth and the gun in his pocket, or maybe he's just happy to see Blibberta.
It's really funny because Roger is like, he's, very Fruity-esque, I guess.
He's got a little bit of
that thing he does in that one episode where he like puts his hands on his hips and he's like,
he's just so immature and silly. Like, he thinks he thought he was like giving her the worst insult ever and basically called her a stinky poopy head and then shaked his hips and walked away. Like,
Imagine if there was like a script blooper where he just straight up called her bitch.
Okay, he's a flamboyant heterosexual.
He's just dumb. I think that's kind of what it comes from. Is he just kind of speaks his mind a lot. He's a little goofy. Let him be a little goofy, and
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen anybody call him gay. Like, people don't even care about Roger, period. But like, I just think, I guess I don't know. I'm just gonna bring it up anyway because I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't read a Roger Putty fic, but like
that was
shut up, because I did.
Yeah,
but he don't care. But he said he doesn't care about the guy, So he's going through it. Okay, he wants a woman specifically with pink hair. Okay, until the reckoning.
Oh.
But yeah. Anyway, no, I know nobody's talking about him. We'll just bring it up for funsies.
There is a ship that I feel is about not as insulting as people shipping Stephanie and Kim, but it's kind of up there. People shipping Florence and Dottie. That, like, I sympathize with Dottie to a certain extent, but she also did like fat-phobically harass and bully Florence. Like, that's not an enemies to lover type situation.
Plus, in like some of the like, both in Abstinence and in Narcissism, she's been shown to be like sexually aggressive.
She rapes Putty.
Yes.
And Florence was uncomfortable enough with Dottie that she moved out. Like, if you're shipping them, that's fucking weird. I'm sorry. Like, they don't have that chemistry. They're not even friends, as Florence said.
Yeah.
And I think she meant that when she said that.
Yeah,
So.
she was being treated like dirt.
Yeah.
Dottie sucks.
And Florence does I don't think that like Florence was trying to beat around the bush or whatever. We see her, she speaks her mind. Maybe she didn't always speak her mind, but she definitely does now. Yeah. We did discuss the idea of her also being bisexual, but we think that she is just a Fujoshi.
Gotta get that one out there.
So glam, for those of us who don't know what Japanese words mean, would you like to explain Fujoshi to the audience?
I feel like they're gonna send a bomb to my house. So, I please to my Fujoshi sisters, I also am very much a fan of reading about homosexual relationships. So from what I've come to understand, it's women who have a vested interest in reading men-loving men relationships in fiction. There's a little bit of a controversy with it because some people believe the nature of Fujoshism to involve fetishizing the relationship and not necessarily seeing the gay men as full humans and equals. Like, they're just kind of sexual objects in the same way that straight men will objectify lesbians.
The term?
However, I was
going to say the term.
Go ahead.
I'm pretty sure originated as derogatory.
Yeah.
Because it means rot.
Yeah,
it means rotten
I've always
girl.
heard it.
We don't need to do a whole lesson on Fujoshi in here, but
but it's good to. However, I mean it in the sense that, like, when Florence gives Putty the grand tour of his new decorated home because he's not lonely anymore, she explains that all her kissing zebra statues are both boys.
She's Fujoing out.
That's our list.
Yeah. Every other character is up for grabs. We don't really care about them.
Yeah.
Dr. Potter
Oh my God.
bisexual. Let's move on.
Sure.
I don't see
Okay.
that one. I'm sorry.
Okay, Glam.
Sorry.
You just want him to.
You
just want him to
know
shack
him,
up
man.
with.
know me.
You just want him to shack up with Dr. Chosenberg for a day.
Yeah. Yeah. No. To clarify, I am joking. I do believe he's straight.
I do, in fact, believe. Anyway, I think we're towards the end here, right?
Oh, we're gonna go on a big spiel about like how like queer life or queer characters in Moralton like see each other. So we know there's no Moralton pride because it is a fundy Christian town and everybody hates themselves and each other and nobody gets along.
Because
Also, the
Yeah.
Censordoll riots at Pride would be crazy.
oh my God,
Yeah.
she would burn Pride to the ground.
You should have her own float.
Moralton Pride.
Censordoll
Moralton.
float.
Wait. Moralton probably does have their own fucked up version of Pride, but it's like anti-Pride.
No,
I mean, gay shame is already a thing.
they do straight Pride. They do
Sorry.
straight Pride.
That one hit me.
Every day is straight Pride Day.
Yeah, but they want to celebrate it extra.
Anyway, we need the hot tea to end this video.
Okay, so we love to speculate about how, the characters interact, and here's some stuff about how we think the queer Moralton citizens feel about each other. The first one is we believe that Clay knows Stephanie's queer, and he, hates her for it on principle.
Well, the principle being that he's kind of jealous that she gets to be out and just do whatever she wants.
Yeah, he wants that.
Remember when he goes up to Putty and he's like, "Sure, she's your type, Reverend," and then he makes that face.
The fucking face he makes.
He's like, "You dumbass." You
I like that face he
dipshit."
makes because it's
That is
it's
a
like
whole ass
me
lesbian
mouth.
circle.
It's like when you put on a me.
Wait, he pokes his head back in when they're talking and he's like confused that she wants to go out with him.
Yeah. He's like, what's going on?
Great scene.
But yeah,
His gaydar is on point, by the way.
it is. And Stephanie is probably ambivalent towards Clay. She definitely knows he's gay.
Yeah.
100%. I know her gaydar is excellent. They clocked each other.
Danielle, he's a prep, so he's a prep gay. He's maybe the guys who wear the polos and go golfing.
Yes. Yeah,
That's
him.
him.
That is him. We literally
he
see
literally
him
wore
dressing
that
like
in Loyalty.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be friends with Stephanie.
It's kind of sad because Stephanie is the type of person who might want to run start a GSA and meet other queer people, but nobody comes, not even her dad.
Aw.
Maybe he lets her use the church for it.
Yeah, he's like if I wanted to hang out with a lesbian, I'd just be at home.
Oh my God.
If he wanted to hang out with gay people, he could just go to the bar when Clay's there. And Dolly.
So, Danielle and Miss Secondopinionson, we're of the belief that they probably grew up together and have some good rapport as family and coworkers and as fellow queers, but they are the same kind of prep.
Yeah, I think I've discussed it a little bit before where I get the vibe that same S word, Miss Secondopinionson is a little bit more accepted, partially because the way that she fills a more traditional role as a woman. She's not both trans and GNC GNC in the same way that Stephanie is. She appears to the she's fulfilling all the things that they want a woman to be, which I think is something that she would not necessarily take pride in, but she is the same kind of gay queer as Danielle, where they are a little bit.
He's like, okay, if I end up in hell, I'm not gonna end up in the hell that you're in. That's what Danielle and Miss Esso
It's
both
respectability.
Yeah. Also, Miss Esso is cooler than he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about Stephanie alone.
Alone.
Moralton GSA.
The Moralton GSA.
It's like that clip of SpongeBob where he's sitting in the diner and it's raining outside and he has a single cup of coffee in front of him.
Putty is the kind of evangelical who believes that everybody experiences same-sex attraction. Everybody experiences it, and that they just should choose not to pursue it.
Yeah, when he was on the pulpit, in addition to him advertising homosexuality, he was talking about it as though it's like, I'm preaching to the choir here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the only person nodding along, Clay.
Yeah.
It's like, I think if, like, in some universe where Putty did raise Stephanie, he'd be the dad who says everybody falls in love with their best friend at one point, okay? Sometimes you get confused, and then you get over it later.
Absolutely. Mr. Carvson, he's an ex-gay who graduated from True Directions conversion camp. We, like a few weeks ago, we were, looking into conversion therapy, and we found these great videos from an organization that like tries to spread true information about the dangers of conversion therapy and does like
and by the way, they run a website called gayhomophobe.com.
It's the greatest website to ever grace the internet. It's so good.
It's been defunct for 1,386 days now, but
it's amazing.
It contains a wealth of fascinating information about politicians, public figures, reverends, representatives, all sorts.
It's a great website. Highly recommend checking it out. But Mr. Carvson's an ex-gay, and we watched those videos and learned about actual techniques that are used in conversion therapy, and learned about the term ex-gay. And Mr. Carvson, I think he'd be a proud ex-gay. He'd be like, I'm cured.
He'd be open about it. He'd be openly like, I was once a slave to my terrible urges, but now I am healed from the power of Christ.
Yeah.
God. So I have a Pepe Sylvia moment just now. This is a little crazy. It might not happen in the town, but let's say for a second that it's the kind of conversion camp where his parents sent him to it when he was more maybe a teenager. With what we mentioned earlier of Dolores possibly being trans and making more sense for her to be considered his sister, maybe she also went through the same idea, but instead of coming out of it as an ex-gay, she realized that she felt like a woman.
Oh.
Okay, glam DM me later.
Am I meeting you in your study, or do you like it?
I think that's interesting. I thought it was. No, I thought it was. Shut up! I thought it was interesting.
Okay, I'm excited.
Ken Awkwarding, we talked about him.
You gotta talk about Dale really quick.
Oh yeah, Dale is the elder queer who's so out of touch and uses all the wrong terms.
He calls it free lovin'.
He's like, I don't know. I'm just not woke.
Back in my day, we just called it free lovin' and didn't put a label on anything.
Yeah, I feel like he'd still use the word transsexual or transvestite or something like that, and he doesn't mean it to be offensive. This is my friend, transsexual.
Yeah.
Okay, Dolly is a man-hating and self-hating subtype of lesbian. She doesn't show that she hates men, but she hates men.
Yeah. I mean, look at who she has to deal with on a daily basis. Clay's
she hates the straight ones, she hates the gay ones, she hates the ones who come in to pick fights, she hates the ones who come in to hit on her. She has a pair of nunchucks behind the counter just in case any of them get rowdy. She knows how to use them.
Oh yeah.
It's so funny when she rejects Roger.
She doesn't reject him. Oh! I thought you were talking about the sting operation. I was like,
no. It's
on a plan.
No,
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's immaturity. Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
I have all this money and I don't know what to do with it.
She can think of a few things.
She had. Did she have a kind of a almost a Jersey accent in that scene?
It was a Southern accent.
She had a slightly different voice. I don't think it was they didn't think she was going to get used
it's
again.
Carolyn.
Maybe.
It's Carolyn in both scenes.
I know it's Carolyn. They just didn't give her a specific direction.
She gave her the Sandy voice.
Yeah.
It's not quite at the Sandy Cheeks level, but I get what you mean.
Yeah.
It comes from the same part of her throat.
Yeah. Sandy, if she wasn't quite so
Who wasn't quite so Texan.
Is that our whole list?
Yes.
What else did we want to talk about here?
I think that we got a pretty good. I think we got a pretty good rapport going with that one. I think we covered a lot of good stuff here.
I guess like in talking about like emotionally honest representation, it's not about it being perfect or having to be like something that doesn't offend the sensibilities of, you know, straight audiences, because they're going to be offended whatever it is. And you know, I feel like emotional honesty is something I would prefer to see than really polished sort of depictions, these kind of idealized depictions.
I would call them corporate depictions in some ways. Like they're very commercialized.
Yeah.
Very safe, commercialized corporate depictions.
Sanitized.
That's not the kind of art that I want to see.
No, and like queer people are people. Like we're messy and we make mistakes, and you know, we don't do everything perfectly. Sometimes we do things that are like very wrong, and it's, you know, we have, you know, it's not all good and polished, you know, and you know, queer people, we shouldn't have to like put on this front of being perfect at all times to be accepted.
It's called respectability politics, and it doesn't work.
I need the Flygron lore to be put in the chat, please, at some point. I need the homework. I want to know what his last name would be. I need a good stop motion pun for that one.
Flygron. Fletcher Greening.
What's Greening?
It's like Matt Greening.
Oh, I thought we were gonna do a pun.
Oh, like
that would be funny.
Or like a stop motion.
I'm just trying to truncate a name for him, but we can think of something else.
Is there a pun we can do about the weird, like, sculpted feet?
Oh God. You mean tie downs? They use Tina.
Oh yeah, because they're all kinky and Fletcher tied.
Oh,
that's
kinky
so funny.
Yes. I'm gonna cry. Shed tears over
We could even hyphenate it so that it's like we get the like Fletcher grading tie down.
And tie down can be spelled like TYDOWN.
When it comes to representing queer people on screen, some people will never be satisfied because they aren't interested in seeing queer people in the first place. When queer people are in the closet, they feel shame for the happiness they get from their true selves. When they leave the closet, they feel shame for the remaining embarrassment and fear for not being prideful enough. Emotionally honest queer representation is the real, but not always pretty medium between the two, and we hope all of our audience members, not just the queer ones, enjoyed the exploration. If you want to submit any questions you may have for our professors at Moralton University, you can do so on our Neospring or Tumblr, which we'll answer in a future video.
I will defend. Dad, sit down, 'cause I'm in love.